The bass was rattling my windows before I even turned onto Maple Lane. My stomach dropped like a stone when I saw the lineup of SUVs choking my driveway. My brand new cedar fence gate, the one I padlocked every single morning, swung wide open like an invitation. And there, in the middle of my backyard that was supposed to be my family's sanctuary, were at least 60 people. Kids cannonballing into the pool I'd spent 2 years saving for. Adults sprawled across my new lounge chairs with red Solo cups. Someone had fired up my grill and was flipping burgers while grease dripped onto my fresh concrete. Standing right in the center like the queen of the castle was Karen Hargrove, Oakwood Haven's HOA president. Clipboard in one hand, Chardonnay in the other, oversized sunglasses perched on her head. She spotted me and waved like we were old pals. "Ryan, you're home early, sweetie. We decided your pool was perfect for this year's community bonding day. Don't worry, the HOA voted unanimously. Your backyard is technically part of our shared amenity zone now." I just stood there as some kid did a belly flop that sent water splashing onto my daughter's pink flamingo flow tie. Karen smiled that plastic smile. "It's for the greater good of the neighborhood." "Yeah, greater good." My blood started simmering, but I didn't explode. "Not yet." I smiled back thinly and said, "Interesting definition of community, Karen." Little did she know, that was the day her little kingdom started to crack. Morning light usually feels like a fresh start in Oakwood Haven. Sprinklers hissing, birds chirping, the illusion of perfect suburban peace. Not that morning. I stepped outside and froze. My backyard looked like the aftermath of a frat house apocalypse sponsored by the HOA. The pool water was a cloudy gray soup dotted with napkins, half-deflated floaties, and one lonely burger patty bobbing like it had given up on life. My brand new lounge chairs? One leg, snapped clean off, the other cracked like it had been used as a diving board. Someone had dumped an entire cooler of melted ice onto the lawn, turning the grass into a mud pit that smelled like cheap beer and regret. And right in the middle of the patio, Sophia's handmade Happy 8th Birthday banner, the one she'd spent a week coloring, dangled from the umbrella pole, ripped straight down the middle. Emily came out behind me still in her robe, coffee mug trembling in her hand. "Oh my God, Ryan, they used us." Sophia ran out a second later, hair messy from sleep, and stopped dead when she saw the mess. Her little face crumpled. "Daddy, can we still have my party?" I couldn't answer right away. The filter was clogged, the water murky, and cleaning this would take days. Emily knelt beside her. "Not this weekend, baby. Maybe next time." Sophia nodded, but I saw it. That quiet embarrassment kids get when adults break promises they never made. That pool wasn't just tiles and water to us. It was the symbol of every overtime shift, every sacrifice, the one thing we'd built that was supposed to be ours. Now it looked like the neighborhood's public dump. Karen's greater good had turned our miracle into a cautionary tale. I peeled the white envelope off the front door before the rage could fully set in. Notice from Oakwood Haven HOA. The community utilized your space for the annual gathering. Maintenance fees and cleanup costs will be divided equally among participating households. Emily let out a bitter laugh that sounded more like a cough. "They trashed our yard, and now we pay for it. That's rich." I folded the letter neatly, the kind of calm that scares even me sometimes. Sophia stood by the broken chair looking tiny against the wreckage. That was the moment something inside me locked into place. This wasn't a party. This was permission. Self-granted permission by people who thought clipboards and committee titles made them landlords of everything they laid eyes on. They'd taken the one place we'd carved out for peace and turned it into living proof that nothing, not even your own fence, was safe from their control. And what stung deepest wasn't the trash or the broken chairs. It was the arrogance of believing they could walk into a man's home, call it community, and expect gratitude. Emily caught the look on my face, the quiet, steady one that always comes right before I decide to fight. "Don't do anything crazy," she whispered. "I won't," I said. Then I looked back at the filthy pool, the reflection of their ruined party still floating there in pieces. "I'll just make sure this never happens again." For a long time none of us spoke. The sprinklers kicked on automatically, hissing against the muddy grass like a countdown. I took one last look at the letter before crumpling it into the trash bag with the rest of their leftovers. If they wanted communal, I muttered to myself, I'll show them what community really costs. By the time I walked into the clubhouse that evening, the air already smelled like coffee, carpet cleaner, and quiet tyranny. The kind of room where civility is just a sharper weapon. A whiteboard up front read, Oakwood Haven HOA monthly meeting, topic, shared recreational access. I didn't need the agenda. They were about to justify turning my backyard into their personal water park and somehow make it sound like I should thank them. The room was packed. Neighbors sat shoulder to shoulder whispering. Some avoided my eyes. Others gave tight, guilty smiles. Every meeting started the same: small talk, pastries, performative politeness. But tonight carried an extra edge, the kind that buzzes right under the surface. At the head table sat Karen Hargrove, pearls gleaming brighter than her conscience. She shuffled papers like she was preparing for a Supreme Court case instead of a neighborhood chat. "Good evening, everyone," she sang out. "First, a huge thank you to all who attended our annual community pool day. Such a success. Real neighborhood bonding." A few claps. A few glances my way. Karen's gaze flicked to me, smile sharp enough to draw blood. Of course, we had a few concerns about property boundaries, but the HOA's mission has always been unity. Sometimes that means sharing spaces that weren't previously open. The manipulation dripped off every syllable. Soft words hiding claws. That's how these people gaslight, not with shouting, but with calm, reasonable-sounding lies. She gestured to some guy in a golf shirt. "Rick from landscaping is looking into community insurance so private spaces used for gatherings stay fully protected." Protected. The word landed like a threat wrapped in velvet. She was already trying to retroactively legalize trespass. One older resident, Mrs. Lang, whose roses Karen once fined for the wrong shade of red, raised a shaky hand. "Karen, dear, wasn't that Mr. Bennett's personal pool?" Karen's smile never wavered. "Technically, yes, but since his property sits adjacent to the community recreational boundary, it falls under our shared visibility zones. It's complicated, but legally flexible." A soft murmur rippled. Karen thrived on that vagueness. My hand rested on the small recorder in my pocket, red light hidden under my thumb. Every word mattered. Every lie was evidence. I didn't speak. Not yet. She kept going, voice warm but hollow. "Now I know some residents might feel uncomfortable, but the board only wants to strengthen community spirit. If anyone feels violated, that's certainly not our intent." Violated. She said it like it was hypothetical, not the headline of my weekend. A guy in the back muttered, "Unbelievable." Karen ignored it and turned to me with theatrical grace. "Ryan, dear, you were such a good sport. I'm sure you understand how these little community misunderstandings happen." Dozens of eyes swung my way. I met hers evenly. "Of course," I said, voice steady. "I understand perfectly." A flicker crossed her face, confusion, maybe the first hint of unease. Then her smile snapped back into place, wider, brighter, faker. "Wonderful. That's the attitude that keeps Oakwood Haven strong." The meeting droned on: budgets, landscaping rules, new fines for non-conforming holiday lights. All filler so everyone would forget the first 15 minutes. But I didn't forget. I sat there silent, letting every sentence carve itself into memory. When it finally ended, people stood, chatted, shuffled papers. Karen passed by me, perfume sweet and suffocating. "Glad we're on the same page," she whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. My recorder had captured every second of her performance. As I stepped outside, the night air felt cleaner, colder, the kind you breathe when the storm is still gathering, but you can already smell the rain. I looked back once at the warm clubhouse lights. They thought the meeting had gone perfectly. And maybe it had. For me. She thought I came to listen. I came to remember. Fear has a sound in places like Oakwood Haven. It's the sudden silence that falls when you walk past houses that used to wave hello. A few days after that meeting, the neighborhood felt different. Lawns still manicured, flags still waving, but people had started shrinking. Doors closed a little faster. Curtains twitched. No more casual waves. That's how control works here. It doesn't scream. It just teaches everyone to lower their voices. It started with the couple next door, the Aldens. Retired 20 years, garden like a magazine cover. We used to chat over the fence. Now they only nodded, nervous. One morning while I hauled trash, I tried anyway. "Morning, Harold." He hesitated, glanced up the street, then leaned in. Ryan, there are rules. Ones that don't get written down. What kind? The kind you don't ask about. His wife appeared at the door, eyes wide. Harold inside. He gave me a regretful half-smile and vanished. That night, I sat on the back porch watching the clubhouse across the cul-de-sac. Lights still on, way too late. 3 cars pulled in, engines idling, doors opening and closing without laughter. Through the trees, I caught faint silhouettes pacing near the entrance. Not paranoia. Pattern. Emily joined me, robe pulled tight. They're holding meetings after dark now. Maybe it's nothing. But we both knew. At 12:40 the last car left and the lights flicked off. Then I saw it. A faint red blink reflecting off my pool surface for half a second before vanishing. A camera? I leaned forward, pulse steady but sharp. They were watching. Or trying to. I jotted one line in my journal before bed. They're not reacting anymore. They're preparing. By the 5th morning, the neighborhood looked peaceful again on the surface. But peace here is wallpaper, too smooth to be real. Emily slid her phone across the breakfast table. New HOA app notification. Recreation maintenance fee, $420. We don't use community recreation, I pointed out. Exactly, she said flatly. When I logged into the member portal, the one Karen insisted everyone use for transparency, my address was highlighted. Event host property allocation, 80%. They hadn't just used my pool. They'd budgeted it. I started screenshots. Every page. Every signature. Karen's name at the bottom of expense reports labeling my backyard, event host, Carter residence. I printed them all, labeled in bold. Evidence, unauthorized billing. The printer's steady hum felt like a heartbeat. Each sheet sliding out was another confession. I backed everything up twice, physical drives in cloud. Redundancy, the engineer in me whispered. If they scrubbed their database later, the ghost would still be there. That night, I couldn't sleep. Emily leaned in the doorway. You're building a case. I'm building clarity, I answered. Cases come later. By morning, I had a binder with tabs, billing, events, property, photos. I even added a cover sheet like I was auditing a project at work. Oakwood Haven HOA Data Integrity Assessment. While they saw a quiet homeowner licking wounds, they actually had a man cataloging their downfall. Then the next envelope arrived. Folded, stamped, professional. Notice of violation, unauthorized gatherings. They were fining me for hosting my own backyard. Emily read it and laughed once, sharp and humorless. They break in, trash the place, then fine you for existing? The signature line said it all. Karen Hargrove, President. Continued noncompliance may result in suspension of voting rights and legal collection. She didn't want money. She wanted submission. I drafted my response that night. No emotion, just precision. This notice is factually incorrect. At no time did I authorize or host any event. Attached, photographic timestamps of non-consensual entry. Request immediate withdrawal per HOA Code 2.7. Failure to comply will escalate to county mediation. I slid in a copy of her own expense report with her signature proudly claiming my pool as event host. Let her choke on her own paperwork. Before sealing it, I stared at the clubhouse lights glowing across the street. You thought I came to listen, I whispered. I came to remember. I've always believed if you want the truth about any system, you don't listen to the people running it. You read the paperwork they hope you never notice. By Thursday, I'd read every covenant, every bylaw, every closing document I'd ignored 2 years ago. And there it was, buried in an appendix under Lot 19 exceptions. The swimming facility and adjacent yard perimeter shall remain a private non-common element exempt from any shared recreational access, lien, or community usage claim under HOA charter. Private, non-common, exempt. The words glowed like unlocked doors. Karen's entire empire was built on sand. I printed it, highlighted it, added it to the binder under a new tab, legal precedent. Each hole punch felt like a drumbeat. Emily handed me coffee. One paragraph really fixes this. Not fixes, I said. Exposes. Once truth gets daylight, lies start melting on their own. That night a soft knock came at the fence. New neighbor Marcus, mid-60s, calm eyes, notebook in hand. Heard you've been busy, he said. Turns out Marcus was a retired private investigator. He slid me the real board meeting minutes, not the sanitized version online. Handwritten notes in the margins. Annual community use, Bennett property. They'd voted to claim my yard months ago. We sat on the porch for hours spreading everything out. Minutes, screenshots, deeds, Marcus's flash drive of secret audio. The pattern was crystal clear. Duplicate vendors. Rewritten expenses. Karen laundering HOA funds through community events that only happened in my backyard. Marcus tapped one page. Pawns don't fall by force. They fall by exposure. Keep them in the light long enough and they melt. The next HOA meeting I arrived early, binder in hand. Expression unreadable. Marcus sat in back recording. Karen started her usual performance. Our goal has always been unity. I flipped pages slowly, letting the sound cut through her speech. Then I stood. You called last month's event a community pool gathering. According to the bylaws and my recorded deed, community amenities must be shared property. Can you confirm which clause designated my private pool as community property? The room went graveyard quiet. Karen blinked. I'm sure that's a misunderstanding. I read the exact clause aloud. Murmurs turned to gasps. I kept going, showed her own expense reports, the minutes claiming my yard, the contradiction in black and white. Someone in back whispered, "We paid for that." Karen's mask cracked. Sweat beaded at her temple. Let's not turn this into a courtroom, Ryan. We're neighbors. Exactly, I said. When one neighbor invades another's home, they stop being neighbors. They become trespassers. The air went still. She tried to shut it down. If you have complaints, file them formally. I closed my binder. You're right. It's not the place. Then I added, just loud enough for the microphone. But you've already given me everything I came for. I walked out as murmurs swelled behind me. Marcus caught up outside. Smooth. You made her contradict herself on record. 3 nights later, Alan, the HOA secretary, showed up at my door, folder in hand, looking like a man who'd finally chosen conscience over comfort. She's rewriting minutes, deleting expenses. Half the board wants out. He gave me everything. The next morning, 2 county sedans rolled up to the clubhouse. No sirens, just quiet authority. I watched from my porch as inspectors carried out boxes. Marcus sipped coffee beside me. Right on schedule. By afternoon, the whispers started. Missing money, duplicate vendors, unauthorized use of private property. The silence that once protected Karen turned on her. The county audit report dropped on a Friday. 10 pages of sterile devastation. Evidence of financial misconduct and trespass on private non-common elements. By 2 o'clock, Karen called an emergency meeting. Half the neighborhood showed up not to save her, but to watch her fall. She stood at the front, pearls gone, hair slightly off, still trying. The report exaggerates. The county official walked in mid-sentence. Mrs. Hargrove, you're under formal investigation for fraud and property violation. Come with us. No drama. Just quiet. Alan moved to dissolve the board. No objections. As they led Karen out, she looked small for the first time. Not queen, just a woman cornered by her own paperwork. The inspector turned to us. An interim committee will manage affairs. Prior fines may be appealed. Outside, the sun was low and golden. Neighbors gathered in clusters, talking openly for the first time in months. The tension that had choked Oakwood Haven finally exhaled. 3 weeks later, my backyard was whole again. The pool sparkled like glass. Fresh chairs lined the deck. Sophia's new banner fluttered proudly. Kids splashed while Emily laughed with neighbors who used to cross the street to avoid us. Marcus showed up with pool toys instead of evidence folders. Normal feels weird now, he grinned. That night, after everyone left, I sat by the water with Emily. The lights danced across the surface like fireflies. Feels like we can breathe, she said. I looked at the quiet yard that once symbolized invasion and now felt like freedom. Funny how silence sounds different when it's peace instead of fear. The next morning, a small note was taped to the mailbox. No signature. Just 4 words. Thank you for standing up. In Oakwood Haven, fear used to travel anonymously. Now gratitude did too. I recorded one last journal entry that night. They called it community. I call it control. But real community doesn't need permission slips or clipboards or threats. It grows in the spaces people once tried to own. I closed the notebook and looked out over the yard one last time. Moonlight rippled across the pool, calm, steady, free. You can't control peace. You can only earn it. Was I the villain for fighting back with paperwork and patience? Or was HOA Karen the real criminal for calling straight-up invasion community spirit? Drop your thoughts below. Who was actually in the wrong here?